The Fields Auto Group proudly presents Huddle Up, with Bucky Brooks, JP Shadrick, John Oehser, and NFL Network analyst and former Jaguar Bucky Brooks bring you the latest on your Jacksonville Jaguars.
Welcome to the new era.
Huddle Up with Bucky Brooks starts right now.
Welcome in. It's Wednesday afternoon, and it's time for Huddle Up with Bucky Brooks. I am not Bucky Brooks. I'm JP Shadrick. Bucky's coming up shortly. Busy show. We'll review the first cuts for the Jaguars' quarterback play and adjustments. They had tape on the helmets the other day. Bucky will tell us what that's about, as Urban Meyer did the other day. We'll get to the cornerback play, stable of running backs in the backfield, and some social media questions. John Oehser is with me here in Jacksonville. Hi, John.
How many times are you going to mention Bucky's name at the top of the show?
I mean, they renamed the show after
may as well
him.
have just said Bucky Brooks, Bucky Brooks,
And
Bucky
ladies
Brooks.
and gentlemen, there he is.
Is Bucky on this show?
He's right there in the middle of your screen. Bucky Brooks. Hello, Bucky. It's your show. Welcome to your program.
Hey, I appreciate that, JP. I really like the introduction. John, we have to work on that. I need you to compliment what JP does. Like, please give me my flowers while I'm right here.
Yeah. Oh, man. You got him today.
You need me? You want me to hang around, or can I do?
Thanks, John, for coming in. I'll see you next week. It's good. Bucky and I will, or Bucky will handle this from here on out. This was for those who are just joining us, and you know who you are, because you didn't listen to the Huddle Up podcast this offseason. We started right after the season was over with happy hour, but we put it out on Wednesday morning, and at one point we did a poll on Twitter because that's so scientific. And the winner of the new name, the name ideas we put out there was Huddle Up.
Well, it's because we didn't throw out the Bucky Brooks show as an idea. That would have been it.
That's true. We're making up for lost time.
Maybe we can put another poll up.
Maybe so. Then we got to redo a bunch of stuff if that happens. So anyway, we're going to keep the name. On Wednesday afternoons, a live show during the season, about 4 o'clock or whenever Bucky wants to get here. We'll go on and get it done every Wednesday afternoon. Let's get to it, though. First cuts are in the books. 5 players are off the roster now. The roster from 90 down to 85 the other day. The most notable name, at least nationally, is Tim Tebow, of course, the tight end. A couple wide receivers on that list. And defensive back DJ Daniel was on that list as well. Let's hear from Urban Meyer, the Jaguars head coach. His first time having to go through a situation like this.
It's an adjustment to this day for go ask Joe Cullen how it feels. He's not a college coach. He's an NFL guy for a while. Go ask Bevel. Go ask Shotty. They're all, they're good people. And when guys are, if the guy doesn't go hard and he's self-inflicted, that doesn't bother you. It's the same in college. The guy does stupid things, but you get out. But a great person that works his tail off, it's awful. Awful.
Yeah, awful indeed, Bucky. You talk to any head coach, certainly, or anybody who's had to sit across the desk from a guy who gets cut, and that's not an easy ordeal to have to go through.
No, it's certainly not an easy ordeal for the coaches or the players, because in the end, this is still a relationship business. A lot of coaches are pouring into these young players, and they want to see those guys succeed. And the worst thing that you can do is to face-to-face tell a player, you're not good enough to continue on our team. We may love you in those things, but right now you're just below the standard of what we want on our team. That's a very difficult situation. And hopefully, based on the way that Urban just talked in that presser, hopefully they handled it with some empathy and compassion, and they were able to give guys direct feedback that will give them an opportunity to make the next team that they compete for. So it is a very, very tough deal for coaches and players, but it's part of the business that everyone chose.
Well, and it's certainly, I think people forget, in college you don't have to do that. In college, you don't have to cut players.
That's right. You
have to let them go if there are discipline problems or if there's something that happened. And I think it's what he was alluding to.
Absolutely.
If it's a guy who kind of writes his own ticket on that front, it's no big deal. But he's, mid-50s, Urban. He's been in this business a long time, but never really had to go through this. He had alluded several times to not looking forward to this. And it's one of the reasons he's running practice. He wants to make sure that when he's cutting a guy, he has a reason for doing it and it's not arbitrary. I've been around a lot of NFL coaches. Most of the ones that I have talked to about this make it a point to they want to talk to the guy face to face, and they want to make sure that they tell that player, look, I appreciate what you have done. I appreciate the effort, because these coaches are very well aware. They have asked a lot of these guys over what, JP, April, May, June, July, August.
Yeah.
Most of these guys give them everything. And a lot of the guys they're cutting, there's an awareness that this may be the last step, and you've given your life to this. They want to make sure that it's known. I appreciate it, and that the player understands. The coach understands that it's not something that they're doing lightly.
Bucky, it's Doug Marrone always said that he remembered every single one of those conversations he had, because he got cut a few times in his NFL career, and he took those to heart, and he just remembers that instance when he had to go through a situation like this.
Yeah, no, it's very memorable. I mean, I can sit here and say that I can remember Brian Schottenheimer's dad, Marty Schottenheimer, cut me in his office in Kansas City and telling me that my NFL career is probably likely over. Now, I continue to play beyond that, but I do remember hearing those words, and it's some of those things. But I think what is important is that the coaches are really honest and direct and give clear messaging to the players so they can understand what they need to work on. If this is the end of the line, what really led it to be the end? Why couldn't they get over the hump? Communication is everything. Players can deal with the circumstances as long as they felt like the communication was honest and direct. And so if Coach Meyer and his coaches have been very direct and honest with the players that were recently dismissed, I think those guys can move on, and it will help them either in their next endeavor or to put closure on their NFL dream.
Well, if you're going to be near the bottom of the roster trying to crack the 53 for the first time, maybe changing positions, maybe changing sports, you have to contribute on special teams. And Urban Meyer said that was the case not only for Tim Tebow, but for everybody on the bubble.
Well, it's special teams. You know, this whole roster management is really critical as we journey here into the next 2 weeks. You know, offensive players that, you know, two of the special teams phases are tackling. And if you never tackled, that's what I found myself, and I still find myself, all of us. You know, every off day we'll have a 2 to 3 hour meeting about roster management, and it comes down because we expect to be very good in special teams. And you know, tight end position is one of those, and tailback. If you can't contribute on special teams, that's a tough go.
Yeah, well, it was that was part of the reason for that cut, Bucky, and you know that's going to be the case moving ahead for the guys. There's another cut on Tuesday coming up after the Monday Night Football game against the Saints in the Superdome. The next day, it's down from 85 to 80 players, so another cut's coming. So all these reps coming up are huge for a lot of these guys.
Yeah, it is huge, but I think Coach Meyer really brings up the big point when it comes to roster construction. The starters are the starters, meaning they're the best offensive and defensive players that you have. They don't necessarily have to worry about the weight of responsibility that comes with playing special teams. Backup players, all backup players have to be able to contribute on special teams. And typically, the normal rule is you have to be able to be on at least 2 special teams to be on the game day actives. And so when you think about players, and we'll use Tim Tebow as an example, Tim Tebow not playing a special team snap in that game was a huge indicator. And Coach Meyer really brings up a great point. For so many of these guys who have never done special teams throughout their collegiate careers, this is learning on the fly. And for offensive players, just kind of learning how to tackle for the first time or getting reacquainted with tackling after maybe playing high school or playing an offensive position in college and never doing the two-way thing, is brand new. So your wide receivers, your tailbacks, your tight ends, all of these offensive guys are now having to learn how to be great tacklers in space, which is the toughest thing to do. And the margin for error is even smaller because there's so many competitive athletes vying for these spots.
Yeah, insider's tip.
Yes.
If you want to know who's making the roster, write down who's covering the first kickoff of the last preseason game. Those guys are usually in. Not always, but it's a pretty good indication. I have a question for the scout.
Okay, John.
This whole thing is new, the 90 to 85, and then you go to 75. Is that better, Buck? Is that better for players? I think I know, but I can't quite get my head around why the stair step instead of just the 90 to 53.
Yeah, it's weird to me. I don't know. Like dismissing 5 guys at a time to me is hard. I kind of like the old system where you go from a big number to, hey, let's cut it to 75 and let's go from 75 to 53. The slow trickle is always hard, and I think it's always hard for players to deal with. It's a new time, but I will say this. We will know a lot more about this team after this game because the first game, the depth chart moves a lot because the guys that were the off-season darlings, if they didn't pop right away in the first game of the preseason, they can tend to go to the back of the bus. By game 2, you have a great idea on who your 2-man depth charts are, and now you just have a handful of guys that are kind of vying for these final spots on the roster. That is almost where we are.
Plenty ahead on Huddle Up with Bucky Brooks. We'll come back in a moment and get into quarterback eyes. Following the eyes of the QB, there were some changes in the practice field this weekend. We'll go in the right beside them in the backfield and hear from Carlos Hyde, Jaguars running back. This hour of Huddle Up with Bucky Brooks is brought to you by Lexus of Jacksonville and Lexus of Orange Park, members of the Fields Auto Group. We're off and running. It's Huddle Up with Bucky Brooks on the Jaguars Digital Network.
You can step up to luxury now.
Hello, I'm Dan Fields. Whatever you're driving, you can step up to luxury now. Plus, get our Fields amenities, which include complimentary loaners, car washes, and our cafes.
Make this your year to step up to luxury at Fields Cadillac, Mercedes-Benz, Porsche, Land Rover, Jaguar, and Lexus. When it comes to the ultimate car buying experience, there's only one name that matters: Fields. And Fields matters because you matter. The Fields Auto Group, proud partners of your Jacksonville Jaguars.
At ViStar, we believe in better. And that means treating people better with friendly, personal service that's kept our members happy since 1952. A smile and personal greeting when you enter the branch, an online or phone chat for those quick questions, and a call center that's open every day. If you believe that great service is better, join ViStar. Visit ViStarCU.org. All loans subject to approval, insured by NCUA.
Your family isn't like anyone else's. Your home shouldn't be either. At Dreamfinders Homes, you can build the home of your dreams in one of their 30-plus communities in Northeast Florida. Choose from luxury single-family homes or maintenance-free townhomes from the 200s. Dreamfinders specializes in homes built to fit your lifestyle. To find out more, call 904-738-0165 or visit dreamfindershomes.com.
I just want to see their eyes, looking off safeties and all. So from the video camera, as you're watching film, you can't tell where they're looking. And I don't know how good we are at moving people yet. And so I want them to see. I've done that really everywhere I've been. It's just, first of all, they love it because they can see the reaction of the defense where they look. And when you don't have a strength, it's hard to see where their eyes are. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, Urban. Thank you very much, and welcome back to Huddle Up with Bucky Brooks, JP Shadrick, John Oehser in support on this program.
Supporting cast.
On Wednesday afternoons.
I'm one of the Jordanaires.
You're right. That's right. I love it. Stripes on the helmet yesterday, Bucky. They had athletic tape right down from the front, the forehead, all the way to the very back in the middle. A couple of lines of it with big, wide stripes of white there, and there was the explanation from Urban Meyer, and, it gives them something extra to look at on tape.
Yeah, it gives them something extra. On the heels of the first preseason game, what you want to do is see how can you improve the efficiency from the quarterback position. T.J. Beathard had an outstanding game. Trevor Lawrence was solid, but the quarterbacks after that, Gardner Minshew and Jay Luton, they didn't necessarily put it up. So what you want to do is, what tools can we give the quarterback to help them improve over the next week? Well, maybe we can work on moving their eyes, and maybe that'll lead to some easier completions if they're moving the safeties or the underneath coverage. Urban Meyer is just being a coach, and I commend him for giving his quarterback some tools to help them maybe reach a higher level when it comes to their play next week.
Yeah, I had never heard of this before, but it's something that people ask me all the time, how much better can a player get in practice? Well, they're typically not going to get physically better in practice, but this is certainly something where you can improve a guy. If you want his head going a certain way, you can look at it on tape and see that it's not, and you can take it back out on the field and improve. So we'll see. Is it going to make Jake Luton or Gardner Minshew that much better at this? Who knows? If it helps Trevor a little bit, more power to it.
How about the defensive back view of this, Bucky? When you're on the other side on the practice field, does that change anything of your view?
No, I don't think it necessarily changed anything. I think most defensive backs are already looking at the quarterback's eyes. In baseball terms, as a defender, you call it stealing second. When you play baseball, you steal bases off the pitcher, not the catcher. And so most of the time, the overwhelming majority of quarterbacks, wherever they're looking, that's where they're throwing. And so defensive backs are trying to get an extra step or two on the throw by looking at the quarterback's eyes and running in the direction where he's looking. Urban is trying to offset that by really training the guys to look one way and throw the next. It is something that is easier said than done, but the striping will allow the coaches to see how their guys are progressing.
Yeah, the only one I can think of that doesn't do that from time to time is Patrick Mahomes, right, with the no-look passes.
Well, it's veteran
Yeah,
stuff.
no look.
If you can get a quarterback good at this, accelerated, I expect Trevor Lawrence to be very good at moving defenders with his eyes in a second or third year. I don't know that he had to do that much at Clemson, Buck, but it's stuff that as quarterbacks get older and you watch the game, Aaron Rodgers, Brady, these guys are very, very good at it, and you can move defenders around. How great is Lawrence going to be that in his first year? If he's great at it, then he's destined for greatness because the great ones do this.
Yeah, no, it is something that the great ones do. I mean, it's kind of like the game that we used to all play as kids called pickle, where you're trying to move guys around and you're trying to throw the ball around them and do all this other stuff. Where quarterback, in essence, when you're playing quarterback, you're basically picking one defender to play pickle on. If he goes right, you throw it left. If he goes left, you throw it right. It really is as simple as that. But what you want quarterbacks to do is to understand what they're looking at, to also understand where are the progressions of the routes, who's my primary, who's my secondary, who's my third. If I can do those things and begin to, quote unquote, manipulate defenders, that's when your quarterback has an opportunity to go from good to great in a hurry.
This is Huddle Up with Bucky Brooks. We stick in the backfield, and a quarterback's best friend is a running game. If things aren't going well through the air, you can hand it off. Carlos Hyde joins the Jaguars again this season, a familiar face for head coach Urban Meyer, and Hyde yesterday compared Urban back in Columbus, Ohio, at Ohio State, to Urban in Jacksonville, Florida, with the Jaguars.
In college, he got a little more room, to get away with some things. It's kind of different in the NFL. So, but he's still learning the game too in the NFL. But it's nowhere near like college. College was another level. It was a lot more intense. With Coach Meyer. But he's still the same Coach Meyer, but just not as intense as college.
Some of that, Bucky, might be that approach for Urban. Now it might have changed a little bit, older and wiser, right? Might be health-related in his past as well. Some of them might just be NFL professional football player-related. But, I mean, there's still pressure, intense pressure here in the NFL. The real-life games haven't started yet, though.
No, the real-life games haven't started. But I'm hearing Carlos Hyde talking about a less intense Urban Meyer. And I think, JP, we can attest, John, you too, we can attest to seeing Urban on the sideline, and he certainly doesn't look like he's lost any of the intensity, even in a preseason game. It looked like it pained him to see the team end up on the short end of the stick on the scoreboard. And so I believe he certainly had to dial it back because the NFL is a marathon. You're talking about a 17-game regular season plus whatever takes place in the playoffs. Man, you have to pick and choose when you elect to burn up your gas. I believe Urban is trying to conserve his energy and kind of insert himself in spots where he knows he needs to kind of get the team going. And you can't do that 24/7, 365. I think he's a smarter, wiser coach now than the one that we saw at Ohio State.
Yeah, he said earlier in the offseason he's not going to be running around the practice field screaming his head off like he used to do in the old days.
Well, he is certainly very open about everything that he's trying to learn. and it's been remarkable. We've talked about it a lot, JP, how candid he has been about that. One of the things he is learning now is obviously this: how much should he put into a preseason loss? He talked after the game, one of the talking points after the game, wanting to see more tempo during the preseason from preseason games. And there are times where you can see him struggling with it or trying to learn, and he will come out and say, I'm talking to the coaches about this. They're counseling me on it. I think that's one of the learning processes that we are seeing in real time, if you will. How much do I want to put into this, or not how much I want to put into this, but how much tempo do I want to see? How worried should I get about not seeing something in preseason? You can sort of see the coaches trying to tell him, hey, don't stress, it's just preseason. And him sort of saying in real time, I'm not buying that much.
You got to go play, right?
Yeah, you got to go play at some point. So it's fascinating to see that, and it's been fascinating to see him say up front, they're telling me this, and I'm not sure I'm buying it this time. Or, hey, I get it, they're right. And that's sort of that line that he's walking. And I sense that we're going to see that line walked all season.
Yeah, I think it's a tough thing for him because you're coming from a college environment where you didn't have preseason games or scrimmages against other teams. You get right into the regular season, and there's a scoreboard and records are kept. For Coach Meyer, I'm sure he is a guy. We've listened to him, we've heard him, we've talked to him, and how you do anything is how you do everything. And so when you think about trying to create the right kind of habits that you want in the locker room and the things that exist within the culture of the team, it is hard for Coach Meyer to deal with losses and to just brush them off. You're so protective of the culture and the environment. And look, just think about winners and losers and all the other things that we have seen in practice, the things on the wall, 4 to 6, A to B, +2. It is hard for someone who is wired like that to be okay with a loss during a preseason game and say, "Oh yeah, it doesn't count. It doesn't matter." Yeah, I don't think he's wired like that, and I think he's trying to rewire the team so they're not wired like that.
It's also so much different, JP, because think about it. His only experience with anything remotely like a preseason game is I don't know what they call it, Ohio State. Is it the
I don't know.
Spring game?
Yeah. In Alabama, it's the A-Day game or the G-Day game at Florida or Georgia, excuse me.
And it was a spring game at Florida.
Yeah.
So, but in that, when you lose, you also win.
Yeah, right. Right.
Somebody's winning on your side. So in the preseason, if you lose, it's still you losing. So I think that's a little bit of a struggle. And, it's my guess is next year he'll get it inside a little more. Every coach says they want to win in the preseason. Every player says
they have to, right?
He feels it, and maybe by next year, maybe he'll feel a little less. I don't know, but
we'll see.
It's different. It is definitely different.
There's no doubt about that, and we'll follow that throughout this preseason. Plenty ahead. We're back in a moment with Tyson Campbell. Jaguars cornerback spoke earlier this week after a training camp practice. The Daly's Play schedule is heating up. Lady A coming up August 20th. That's Friday night at Daly's Place. Chris Tomlin, Carrie Jobe, and Bethel Music September 3rd. Rod Wave September 9th. Sam Hunt September 10th. Tickets available at dailysplace.com. This is Huddle Up with Bucky Brooks on the Jaguars Digital Network.
You can step up to luxury now.
Hello, I'm Dan Fields. Whatever you're driving, you can step up to luxury now. Plus, get our Fields amenities, which include complimentary loaners, car washes, and our cafes.
Make this your year to step up to luxury at Fields Cadillac, Mercedes-Benz, Porsche, Land Rover, Jaguar, and Lexus. When it comes to the ultimate car buying experience, there's only one name that matters: Fields. And Fields matters because you matter. The Fields Auto Group, proud partners of your Jacksonville Jaguars.
Pinpoint, the official signage partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, helps business decision makers like you maximize the impact of their brand. Your company's identification, advertising, and even the words you use make an impression on your clients. With Pinpoint as your coach, you can make sure it's a good impression. Pinpoint provides the creative design and production services for anything you need to enhance your brand, From custom signage to complete marketing solutions, step up your game with Pinpoint and create the ultimate brand experience for your clients. Visit experiencepinpoint.com.
At most sandwich places, asking for more of something is just part of the drill. But what if you never had to ask for more? What if more was just a given? At Daly's, more is what our sandwiches are built on. More meat, more cheese, more veggies, more quality, more taste. All for a price that's anything but more. Sandwiches from Dash, made fresh. Daly's.
Yeah, when I look back, make sure I continue to lean, and if I look up, making sure I'm not creating my own separation, make sure I lean into the guy. So, at my position, things are like that going to happen, but, I want to make sure that it doesn't happen on a consistent basis. So, I went over film, did reps in practice this week, so getting better for that.
That's Tyson Campbell, Jaguars' second-round draft pick this year out of Georgia. And welcome back. It's Huddle Up with Bucky Brooks and two other guys. I'm JP Shadrick. That's John Oehser. Joe Fortunato.
No, you didn't even need to do the last part. just stop right there and move on.
I like that. Joe Fortunato, Brent Reber are also here today. I like listening to Tyson Campbell the other day, Bucky, because the guy came up in his prep world in an environment not many guys get to, working and playing under Patrick Surtain, the head coach at American Heritage School down in South Florida. Of course, we all know his teammate Patrick Surtain II, who made a big play in preseason week 1. So he understands and I think can articulate very well the position and the mistake he had on that play, the touchdown in the back right corner of the end zone right before halftime.
Yeah, I love what he was able to articulate because to me it shows that he has a clear understanding of what went wrong on the play. He talked about getting his eyes up, being able to identify the ball when it's in flight. What he did, in my estimation, what messed him up and why he lost separation is when he was running side by side with the receiver, he looked back, but instead of looking up as if the ball is already in flight, he looked back to try and see the quarterback. When you do that, you begin to turn your body, you drift away from the wide receiver that you're trying to pin to the sideline. And as a result, this was a touchdown on a play where he really had outstanding coverage for the entire down.
Bucky, wouldn't you rather have the guy who can have the outstanding coverage as a rookie and has to learn the eyes rather than vice versa?
Yeah, no, I'd rather have the coverage first because I can live with a guy who can play sticky coverage. The one thing that I was encouraged by in watching the Jags on Saturday night, the coverage was much tighter than it had been previously. They were able to play some man-to-man. Playing man-to-man really allowed them to take away the outside part of the field, and it forced the Browns quarterbacks to throw checkdowns. Now, those guys rang up a bunch of completions, and they also strung together some drives. But in most games, the odds are against the team having to live with 5- and 6-yard passes and runs to sustain a drive long enough to be able to get in the red zone to score.
Couple questions, Buck, for the scout. I mean, it's your show, so I'll tee you up.
Whatever.
Devon Hamilton, how good does he look to you? And the run defense, which was improved the other night, does it look real?
Yeah, no, I think the run defense is sustainable. Devon Hamilton is a real guy up front. Active hands, great first step quickness. Does a great job playing on the other side of the line of scrimmage. I think the thing that makes the Jaguars defense, run defense in particular, gives them a chance of stepping up the amount of athletes that we're seeing flying to the ball and finishing plays. They only gave up 1.6 yards for a rushing attempt, and a lot of that was due to the front seven flying onto the ball, but more importantly, the secondary, the cornerbacks and the safeties are getting in the alley, throwing their bodies around, and when you get all 11 committed to knocking the running back or the ball carrier around, it gives you an opportunity to win and play great defense. We saw some of that from the Jaguars. Now let's see if they can continue to build upon it as we get into the end of the preseason.
Yeah, Devon Hamilton, impressive stature, 6'4". He told me he's 330 officially, and he's not fat really at all. I mean, he is a stout, strong human being, large.
Yeah, you're starting to hear more and more whisper, buzz, feeling, whatever, that this kid's for real. And that as much as we talked about Malcolm Brown, who's obviously a big-time addition, it's not insignificant that it's Hamilton who's inside. He's the guy that on first and second down, maybe not so much on nickel, but when it comes to stopping the run, they feel like this kid might be special. And I know we're not too deep into it yet, but every practice he's standing out. And I think it was Urban who said a couple weeks ago, Linder is talking about how difficult it is to block this kid. That's significant stuff because Linder's been around long enough to know who's good and who's not.
Sure.
So keep an eye on Devon Hamilton.
Especially in this team, too. I mean, you have some of the defensive tackles they've had on this roster in the years past with Linder.
Yeah, this may be something that matters a lot over the next few years.
All right, plenty ahead. We'll come back in a moment with social media questions. Bucky, you have a lot to answer for today when we come back. Remember to subscribe to the official Jaguars Podcast Network on Apple iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Give us the 5-star treatment and your comments. And it's Huddle Up with Bucky Brooks on the Jaguars Digital Network.
You can step up to luxury now.
Hello, I'm Dan Fields. Whatever you're driving, you can step up to luxury now. Plus, get our Fields amenities, which include complimentary loaners, car washes, and our cafes.
Make this your year to step up to luxury at Fields Cadillac, Mercedes-Benz, Porsche, Land Rover, Jaguar, and Lexus. When it comes to the ultimate car buying experience, there's only one name that matters: Fields. And Fields matters because you matter. The Fields Auto Group, proud partners of your Jacksonville Jaguars.
Committed to the team. Committed to the mission. At Navy Mutual, we're committed to providing high-quality life insurance to members of the military and their families. So our policies have no fine print and no military service restrictions. We don't work on commission. We're nonprofit, so we pass the savings along to our members. Because at Navy Mutual, our highest commitment is to you. Visit NavyMutual.org. Navy Mutual, insuring those who serve.
Your family isn't like anyone else's. Your home shouldn't be either. At Dreamfinders Homes, you can build the home of your dreams in one of their 30-plus communities in Northeast Florida. Choose from luxury single-family homes or maintenance-free townhomes from the 200s. Dreamfinders specializes in homes built to fit your lifestyle. To find out more, call 904-738-0165 or visit dreamfindershomes.com.
Welcome back. It's Huddle Up with Bucky Brooks and some other people on this Wednesday afternoon. Glad you're along with us. I think we might just roll with that joke all year, John. Why not?
Oh, you were kidding. Sorry. I wasn't sure.
Glad you're with us. We'll be here most Wednesdays about 4 o'clock on the Jaguars digital channels. And we wrap up today's show with some social media questions. We put out the bat signal earlier today. Here's the best that we could come up with. At @the_JagsFan615. Hey, Bucky, what did you see with the defensive alignment and scheme? I mean, and hashtag Duval with the correct amount of views and hashtag Go Jags. A little early for some of that, right, Buck?
I mean, it's never too early to shout out a Duval. I like that.
Well, no.
The
alignment and scheme, I meant.
No, I got it. In terms of the defensive alignment and scheme, I think you could see what they wanted to do. Joe Cullen was very multiple in how they attempted to come after the running game and blow up blocking schemes. What I saw was a hybrid 3-4 defense with the stand-up defensive players, Josh Allen and Caleb Chasen, given opportunities to make plays. The other thing, we saw a lot of second-level blitzers attacking the line of scrimmage. Rashawn Jenkins being one that comes to mind, safety blitzes and those things. I think as we continue to get farther down the line, we're going to see a very aggressive and creative scheme. But a lot of it depends on how the young guys can hold up on the outside. Against the Browns, they did a great job of holding up. But let's be honest, they didn't face Odell Beckham Jr. They didn't face Jarvis Landry. But if they can cover like they covered on Saturday, I think it allows Joe Cullen to open up the playbook and really get deeper into some of the tactics that he would like to use.
Yeah, I got the idea too, Buck. I mean, to me, they played a little more vanilla than I expected. When I say vanilla, a lot of single high stuff, I thought. My impression is there's a lot more of the playbook that we're going to see once the regular season gets going. And I think some of that is not wanting to show a whole lot. And some of that is maybe still the guys getting completely comfortable with what they're going to run. But it's intriguing because we saw a lot more than we've seen in the past, but I think there's still a lot more to see.
Our next question.
Yeah,
go ahead. Sorry, Buck. Go ahead. Well,
no,
sorry.
absolutely. I was going to say, I do believe that there's more to see, but a lot of it is, I think they got to figure out the musical chairs in the secondary because there are so many young guys that played and played well. I think what you want to do is assess how they continue to play in the second preseason game, namely Andre Sisco, Tyson Campbell, C.J. Henderson. If those guys can play like they played on Saturday, now you can begin to use sub packages, dime personnel with 6 DBs on the field and kind of mix and match what you do up front. A lot of what they will do will be dependent upon how well those guys in the back end can cover.
Our next question from at DeAnthony Wilk. Hey, Bucky, at this point, is more reps for Trevor more beneficial than the idea of competition at his position?
Yeah. I mean, at some point, we need to pull the plug on the competition and allow Trevor to get fully comfortable being the starting quarterback. I think it's trending that way that he is the quarterback. I think anyone who has been around the practices and watched him at the scrimmage and in the preseason games, he is head and shoulders above the other guys when it comes to the talent. At some point, you want to see him get enough reps where he's comfortable and confident going into week 1 of the regular season.
Yeah, I haven't gotten the idea, JP, from watching every practice that, I get that he's not getting every rep with the starters.
Still getting work.
But I just don't have a feel that he's losing ground over where his comfort level could be at this point.
He wasn't yesterday. I'll say that. He was carving up in the red zone.
I agree, but I would think sometime in the next week or so, and that's just a guess, that you're going to see it scale a lot more toward that. So far, I have not come away from any practices thinking, boy, Trevor would be this much further ahead if he had more first-team reps. And maybe I'm just missing it. Maybe I'm just not seeing it. I just don't get the idea that there are still receivers that he's working with, that he's going to be working with as the regular season gets here. He's throwing to Dorsett. He's throwing to Treadwell. Yeah. Every time I write things down, he's throwing to Marvin Jones. So I don't know that he's slipping behind in terms of how much continuity he's going to get. And yet at the same time, I do feel like it's going to ratchet up as we move forward. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just not seeing it, Buck.
No,
I'm not trying to disagree with you. I mean,
No.
I like being here, and goodness knows a few words from you and I'm out. But I just feel that.
No. I would like to see him get more. I mean, you spent all those years up in Indianapolis with Peyton Manning where he hogged all of the repetitions, because if you go into a game and some of these offensive coordinators have 75 to 100 passes on the sheet where there are only so many practice reps that you get. So I would like Trevor to get the bulk of the practice reps so he at least can run those things once or twice so he feels comfortable, whatever those main plays are. I just think it's important for him not to get used to throwing to the wide receivers, but to get used to doing the full-on team drills where he commands all of the reps. Because at some point when you get into the regular season, the second and third quarterbacks, they barely get into the huddle. It is all about QB1 and what QB1 needs to get ready to play great on Sunday.
Time now for our next question from Evanoff Joel. Do you think Coach will give more reps to Etienne this week? And last week, Bucky, Travis Etienne got 13 plays in the game. He had 1 carry and 1 target.
Yeah, I like to think that the focus and emphasis is on really cranking up that part of the offense, the running game, and whatever your plans are for Travis Etienne. Didn't have enough carries. I want to say the Jaguars finished with only 15 rushing attempts in the first game. Got to get that up to kind of see what they have. But also, in the preseason, when you're trying to really get your young quarterback and your other quarterbacks up to speed, you have to throw the ball. But at some point, I would like to see Travis Etienne become a bigger factor in the offensive plan. as a runner or even as a receiver. I think it needs to be imperative for them to get the ball in his hands and let's kind of see what he can do.
Yeah, and believe me, I'm not disagreeing with Buck here. I think you'll see that as a natural progression of more guys getting, meaning I think the first team will play a little more this week. They'll have their main offense in a little more, and I think you'll start seeing that more and more. ETN got 13 reps. The starters, as a rule, were limited last week.
Correct.
So I think as you expand that this week, which I'm sure will be expanded, you'll see ETN in there a little more. I would guess, 18 to 20 reps this week. But that might just happen organically with the starters playing more.
Let's get to our final question of the day, and we're going down the depth chart a little bit here, Bucky, with @O'Greasy39. How do you feel about Aaron Patrick? I thought he made a few really good plays with the sack, holding up at the point of attack, and his lateral hustle sideline to sideline. Aaron Patrick, by the way, is a first-year player officially out of Eastern Kentucky. He was a signing last year and was on the practice squad very late in the season. And now on the depth chart, at least going into last week, Aaron Patrick was an outside linebacker behind Josh Allen and Jahad Ward at that outside linebacker spot, Bucky.
Well, he did a great job week one of flashing and catching the attention of the coaches, because when we watched the line of scrimmage, he was doing a great job of creating disruption. The sack certainly was a nice one for him, and he made a few plays. The thing about being a guy that's on the bubble, that's great that you played well in week one, but what's next? Now in week two, he has to build upon that performance and not only play well, but he has to put some production. And so when you're living on the bubble, each and every week is a new audition. And so Aaron Patrick has to continue to audition well. He plays well. He might buy himself some more time, but he has to play each and every week at a high level during this 3-game preseason.
Well, what may help him, he sure looks the part. When you see him at practice, he is not a guy where you look at him and go, why is he in the NFL? His body type, the way he moves. If you're looking for prototypes, which these guys, as Bucky and I have talked about before, like that prototype look, he looks like he belongs in the NFL. If he has another game or two, don't be surprised what I'm saying if he's one of these surprise guys.
I think I heard John just call it, Bucky. Did you hear the same thing?
That's his guy? Oh, is that Aaron Patrick is your pet cat? That's who we're rolling with?
I'm not allowed to have pet cats on this show. I'm not allowed to have pet cats on this show. I just nod my head and go along.
Cats, and so if that's your guy, hey.
Okay, I thought, sure,
John
why
Oehser,
not? I'll throw Aaron
Pound the table. Pound the table, John. Pound the table for Aaron Patrick. I like it. There you have it. Thank you, Joe. The social questions are in the book. Thank you for the submissions this week. We'll do it again next week. Coming up, Jags back in the practice field tomorrow. You got drive time tomorrow at 10 o'clock, John.
10 o'clock tomorrow. Jaguars drive time with Ashton Sullivan and Brian Sexton.
That's
and
right.
myself.
Bucky, what do you got? There's no Jags TV of the broadcast of the game this week. What are you going to be doing?
I'm just going to be sitting over here pondering what I can put my name on. I'm going to see if I can get my name on drive time, even if I'm not on it. I'm going to just see if I can just slap that on the bottom of the banner and just see.
You know what he'll be doing?
We can just do a takeover.
You know what he'll be doing, JP? Whatever he wants to do.
Whatever he darn well pleases. And of course, we'll have a Jaguars Happy Hour tomorrow at 4 o'clock, 2 hours, one local, one on the network. Our thanks to Bucky Brooks. It's his show. That's John Oehser. I'm JP Shadrick, Joe Fortunato, Brent Reber. It's Huddle Up with Bucky Brooks on the Jaguars Digital Network.